Lena and Omar lived in a small, quiet town where everyone knew each other. Their house was tiny, with paint peeling from the walls and a small garden that struggled to grow flowers. Every morning, Lena would wake up early to help at the local bakery, while Omar worked long hours as a delivery assistant. Even though their lives were full of work, money was always a problem. Bills piled up on the kitchen table, and sometimes the electricity would go off because they could not pay on time. They dreamed of a better life, but it often felt impossible. One bright morning, as Lena was sweeping the floor of their little living room, Omar came in holding a letter. The envelope was heavy and old, with a wax seal stamped with a strange symbol. "This came for us," Omar said, handing it to Lena. She frowned, looking at the handwriting on the envelope. "It doesn't have a return address. Who could it be from?" They sat on the small sofa together and slowly opened the letter. Inside, a neatly written note explained that Lena and Omar had inherited an old garage from a distant relative. The relative's name was something neither of them had heard before. The letter said the garage had been in the family for many years, and that they were the legal heirs. "A garage?" Lena said, trying to hide her disappointment. "We barely have enough space in our home, and now we inherit a garage full of who knows what." Omar laughed softly, though he felt curious. "Maybe it has old tools or something we could sell. At least it is something." After a short discussion, they decided to visit the garage. They had no idea where it was, but the letter included a small map. The next morning, they set out on their old rusty bicycle. The road to the garage passed through fields of tall grass and clusters of small houses. Birds flew overhead, singing in the sunlight, and the wind carried the fresh smell of earth and flowers. Lena felt a small excitement inside her chest, something she had not felt for a long time. "Maybe it is not as bad as I think," she said. Omar smiled. "We will see. At least it will be an adventure." The garage appeared suddenly at the end of the narrow road. It was surrounded by trees, and the paint on the walls had faded over time. The roof had a few holes, and the windows were dusty. Ivy had climbed partway up the sides, and broken chairs and crates were stacked nearby. It looked abandoned, yet somehow there was a quiet strength about it. "It looks ancient," Lena said. Omar nodded. "And very messy." They pushed open the large wooden doors. The hinges creaked loudly, echoing in the empty space inside. Dust floated in the sunlight that entered through the broken windows, making the room feel both magical and forgotten. Inside, the garage was enormous. Rusted bicycles leaned against the walls. Old crates were stacked high, and broken machines were scattered across the floor. Tools hung from hooks, some bent and broken. The smell of oil, metal, and dust filled the air. Lena coughed lightly. "It smells terrible," she said, waving her hand in front of her face. Omar laughed. "Yes, but look at all of this. There might be something valuable hidden here. You never know." He walked slowly through the room, examining everything carefully. Lena followed, her eyes moving over piles of old newspapers, boxes full of bottles, and even a dusty mannequin in one corner. Every object seemed to tell a story from a time long ago. Lena imagined the garage bustling with people, machines working, and children playing outside. Now it was silent and still, like a forgotten memory waiting to be discovered. As they explored, they found a corner filled with crates that had been stacked for years. Some were marked with names and dates, while others had no labels at all. Lena knelt down and opened one crate carefully. Inside were old photographs, letters, and small trinkets. She picked up a black and white photo of a man smiling with a group of workers in front of a machine. "Who could this be?" she asked. Omar shrugged. "Probably someone who owned this garage long ago. Look at all this history." They spent hours moving boxes and examining old furniture. Most of it seemed useless, but Lena felt a strange excitement as they uncovered small treasures. A brass lamp, a rusty but beautiful clock, and even an old music box that still played a soft tune. "It feels like we are discovering a hidden world," Lena said, her eyes wide. Omar smiled, enjoying her happiness. "And maybe one of these things is worth a lot of money. Who knows?" While examining the floor near the back of the garage, Omar noticed a wooden board that looked slightly different from the others. It was loose, as if someone had moved it recently. "Hey, look at this," he called to Lena. She came over, curious. Omar lifted the board carefully, and beneath it, they found a small metal chest. Unlike the old boxes and crates, this chest looked newer and sturdier. It had a shiny lock that glinted in the sunlight. Lena's heart raced. Do you think there is something important inside? She whispered. Omar nodded slowly, his eyes full of curiosity. He tried the lock, and to their surprise it clicked open easily. Inside they found envelopes neatly stacked, each marked with numbers and letters and small gold bars arranged carefully. Lena's hands trembled as she lifted one of the envelopes. Could this be money? She asked in disbelief. Omar opened a gold bar and held it up. I think it is. But this is strange. Why would someone hide this in a garage? They spent a long time looking inside the chest. There were documents that seemed to explain investments, letters from banks and notes about hidden accounts. Lena and Omar could hardly believe their eyes. The garage, which had seemed useless at first, had become a place of wonder and mystery. Lena whispered, "This changes everything for us." Omar nodded, but he also felt a small fear. Yes, but we need to understand it carefully. There might be rules or conditions we have to follow. As the sun began to set, painting the garage in warm shades of orange and gold, Lena and Omar sat on an old crate, holding some of the documents in gold in their hands. They looked at each other and smiled, a mix of excitement and nervousness in their eyes. For the first time in years, they felt hope. The garage that once seemed empty and forgotten had given them a glimpse of a new life, a life full of possibilities they had never imagined. Omar finally said, "Tomorrow we will start figuring out what all of this means. For now, let's take it slow." Lena nodded, feeling a warmth in her chest. She knew that their lives were about to change forever, and although the path ahead was unknown, they were ready to face it together. As they left the garage and locked the doors behind them, the old building seemed to stand taller, proud, as if it had waited many years to reveal its secret to the right people. Lena and Omar rode home under the colorful sky, their hearts light and full of wonder. That night, as they went to sleep, they dreamed of the possibilities ahead, not knowing that the small, dusty garage had just given them a key to a future beyond their imagination. The next morning, Lena and Omar woke early, eager to return to the old garage. The sun had barely risen, casting golden light over the small town. Birds sang in the trees and the air was cool and fresh. Both of them felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. Lena packed a small bag with snacks, water, and a flashlight, while Omar carried a notebook and a pen to record anything important. As they arrived at the garage, they noticed how different it looked in the early morning light. The walls, still faded, seemed warmer under the soft sunlight. The rusted bicycles and broken machines cast long shadows across the dusty floor. A small breeze moved the ivy that climbed partway up the walls, making the garage feel alive in a strange, quiet way. Lena took a deep breath and said, "Today, we will find out what this chest really means." Omar nodded, his face serious but excited. Inside, the garage smelled of dust, oil, and old wood, but it no longer felt empty. The metal chest sat where they had left it, gleaming slightly under the sun that filtered through the broken windows. Omar knelt down and opened the chest carefully. Lena stood beside him, eyes wide as they examined the contents once more. Gold bars glinted in the morning light, envelopes were stacked neatly, and papers with stamps and signatures were arranged in folders. Lena picked up one of the envelopes and examined it. It was marked with a number and a series of letters she did not recognize. "I wonder what this means," she said. Omar looked at her thoughtfully. "It looks like an account number or a special code. Maybe it is part of a bank or an investment. We will have to find out." He gently lifted one of the gold bars and turned it in his hands. "The gold itself is valuable, but I think these papers are even more important. They might tell us how to claim everything." They spent hours carefully sorting through the chest. Each document and envelope revealed more about the mystery. Some papers were contracts with banks, detailing investments made decades ago. Others contained letters from financial advisors explaining how the money had grown over the years. Lena noticed one letter addressed to their distant relative, instructing them to hide the money safely for future heirs. "This was planned," Lena said quietly. "Someone wanted the money to be found only by the right people." Omar nodded, impressed. "And it looks like we are those people." Among the papers, they found diagrams and charts showing how the money had been invested in different places. Stocks, bonds, and property all contributed to the fortune. The total value had grown to an amount they could hardly imagine. $100 million, Omar whispered, hardly believing it. Lena's eyes widened. "This is more than we could ever dream of. We can finally live without worrying about bills, about rent, about food." They both felt a mixture of joy and disbelief. While examining the chest, Lena discovered a smaller, folded envelope hidden beneath the documents. She opened it carefully. Inside was a letter written in neat handwriting. It read that the money could only be claimed by legitimate heirs who could prove their identity and connection to the original owner. The letter emphasized honesty, patience, and careful planning. "This is serious," Lena said. "We cannot make mistakes or rush. Everything must be done properly." Omar agreed. "Yes, but if we follow these instructions, we can claim what is rightfully ours." After hours of reading and examining, they decided to organize the chest. Lena stacked the gold bars neatly, placed the envelopes in order, and arranged the documents by date. Omar wrote notes about each item in his notebook, making a detailed record of everything. The work felt important, almost sacred, as if they were handling something much larger than themselves. Lena felt a sense of responsibility she had never experienced before. "This is not just money," she said. "It is a trust. Someone believed we could handle it." They also explored the rest of the garage, hoping to find any other hidden secrets. In a corner under a pile of old newspapers, Omar found a small key taped to a wooden beam. "This might belong to another lock or chest," he said. Lena took it carefully. They spent the next hour looking for anything that matched the key, moving boxes, lifting crates, and examining shelves. Although they did not find another chest, the search made them feel more connected to the garage, as if it was sharing its secrets slowly and deliberately. As the day passed, the sun moved high in the sky, making the garage warmer. They took breaks, sitting on old crates and drinking water. Lena imagined what their life could be like with the money. She thought about fixing their house, helping their neighbors, and starting a small business that could employ people in the town. Omar smiled at her ideas and added, "We can also save some for the future, for emergencies and for dreams we cannot even imagine yet." The thought of a secure, happy future filled them with hope. Later in the afternoon, Lena noticed something unusual about the chest. There was a small hidden compartment at the bottom, almost invisible. She called Omar over, and together they pressed a latch hidden beneath the lining. The compartment opened, revealing a bundle of old photographs and letters. The photographs showed their distant relative with people they did not recognize, working in the garage and traveling to different cities. Some letters were addressed to banks and lawyers, explaining the careful planning behind the hidden fortune. Lena and Omar realized the person who had hidden the money had been very smart and cautious. "This person planned everything for years," Omar said. "They wanted to make sure the money reached someone responsible." Lena nodded, feeling respect for the distant relative she had never met. "And now it has reached us," she said softly. The thought made her heart feel light and full of purpose. They carefully placed the photographs and letters back into the compartment, making sure nothing was disturbed. Every object, every paper seemed to tell a story of trust, responsibility, and hope. By the time the sun began to set, Lena and Omar had organized everything. They locked the chest carefully and stepped back, admiring their work. The garage, once full of random junk, now felt like a treasure house filled with secrets and possibilities. Lena took a deep breath and said, "Tomorrow we will start figuring out how to claim the money. Today we have only discovered it. The real journey begins now." Omar smiled. "Yes, and we will do it together, carefully and honestly." As they left the garage and walked back to their small house, the evening sky painted in shades of orange and purple gave them a sense of wonder. They rode their bicycle slowly, savoring the moment. They could not stop talking about what they had found, imagining the opportunities that awaited them. Their hearts were full of excitement, but also a quiet determination to handle everything correctly. That night, Lena and Omar sat at their kitchen table, looking at the envelopes and documents they had brought home. They were careful not to open the gold bars, but they studied the papers, making small notes and plans. The moonlight shone through the window, casting a soft glow over their small home. They knew that the path ahead would require patience, careful thought, and courage. But for the first time in years, they felt hope that their lives could change completely. Lena leaned her head on Omar's shoulder and whispered, "We found something amazing. I cannot believe this is real." Omar held her hand gently. "It is real, Lena, and it is our responsibility. We will do it right, step by step." Together they looked at the small pile of treasure before them, imagining a future filled with security, joy, and the chance to help others. They had uncovered a secret worth millions, and their lives would never be the same again. The garage, standing quietly behind them, seemed to rest as if it had fulfilled its purpose. Its doors would open again, but for now it had given Lena and Omar a gift beyond imagination. They went to sleep that night with dreams of possibility, knowing that the true adventure had only just begun. The following morning, Lena and Omar woke with a sense of purpose. They had spent the previous day uncovering the chest and its contents, and now the reality of the discovery pressed upon them. $100 million was more than they had ever imagined. They both knew that handling it responsibly would require careful planning. Lena packed a small bag with the important papers and envelopes, and Omar brought his notebook, a calculator, and a list of questions they needed to answer. Together they prepared to return to the garage. The sun shone brightly as they arrived. The garage, quiet and still, seemed to welcome them. Dust motes floated in the beams of sunlight streaming through broken windows. Rusted tools and old machines surrounded them, but the chest lay in the corner waiting to reveal more secrets. Omar knelt down and carefully opened the chest. Lena stood beside him, her heart beating fast with anticipation. They began by reviewing the documents one more time. There were detailed letters explaining the history of the hidden fortune. Lena read aloud. The original owner of this garage invested small amounts of money over decades. The money grew steadily and legally, and now it is worth over $100 million. Only legitimate heirs may claim it. Omar nodded. It is not just about finding the money. We have to prove that we are the rightful owners. That is the challenge. As they went through the papers, they discovered instructions for claiming the fortune. It required identifying themselves with legal documents, proving their connection to the distant relative, and contacting trusted banks and lawyers. Some documents were simple, like identification papers, but others were complicated, including legal forms and letters from financial institutions. Omar frowned. This will take time, but it is doable if we are careful. Lena agreed. We cannot rush. Every step must be done correctly. One mistake could cost us everything. While studying the chest, Lena found a folder that had not caught her attention before. She opened it and gasped. Inside were detailed plans and strategies for managing the fortune. The folder explained how to invest the money safely, how to avoid unnecessary risks, and how to grow the fortune even further. It seemed the original owner wanted the heirs not only to inherit the money, but also to use it wisely. Lena looked at Omar. This is more than just money. It is a guide for a better life, not just for us, but for others too. Omar smiled, feeling both excitement and respect. It is a responsibility. We have to be smart and careful. He wrote notes in his notebook, listing tasks they needed to accomplish first. Identification papers, legal documents, and contact with trusted professionals were at the top of the list. Lena nodded. We can do this. We have each other, and we will follow the instructions step by step. After organizing the papers, they examined the gold bars. While valuable, they realized the documents were far more important. One letter explained that the gold was only a small part of the fortune, and it could be used to verify the ownership claim. Omar held a bar in his hands, turning it slowly. It is real, but it is not the key. The real key is these papers. Lena agreed. Yes, and we must protect them carefully. As the day passed, they explored the garage again, hoping to discover more clues or hidden compartments. Lena moved an old workbench and found a small drawer built into it. Inside were additional envelopes, each containing documents that confirmed investments in different cities and banks. It became clear that the fortune had been carefully hidden and divided to ensure security. Lena felt a sense of wonder. This person thought of everything. They wanted to make sure the right person found it. Omar took a moment to reflect. And now that person is us. We have to be careful, honest, and patient. This is a big responsibility. Lena nodded. We can do it. We will do it right. They spent the rest of the afternoon reviewing all the documents, making notes, and creating a plan to claim the fortune legally. Every detail mattered, from signatures to dates, from account numbers to letters from financial advisors. While they worked, Lena noticed that the garage had a peaceful, almost magical atmosphere. Dust floated in the sunbeams, and the old tools and machines seemed like silent witnesses to history. She thought about the distant relative they had never met, and wondered about their life. Whoever had hidden this fortune had been smart, patient, and careful. Lena whispered softly, We have to honor their trust. That is the most important thing, Omar agreed. Yes, we have to handle it responsibly, not just for us, but for the future. They took a break and sat on an old crate, sipping water and looking at the chest. The magnitude of what they had discovered sank in. Their lives had changed forever, but they knew that the real challenge was ahead. Claiming the fortune legally, managing it wisely, and staying patient were tasks that required courage and intelligence. As they resumed their work, Lena noticed a small note tucked between the pages of a folder. It was written in the same neat handwriting as the other letters. The note said, "The money is hidden to protect the future. Only those who follow instructions with honesty and patience will succeed." Lena felt a shiver of respect. "This is a test of character," she said. Omar nodded. "And we have to pass it." By late afternoon, they had made a complete inventory of the chest. Every envelope, gold bar, and document was recorded in Omar's notebook. Lena placed each item back carefully, ensuring nothing was disturbed. The chest, once mysterious, now felt like a guide to the future. Omar closed it slowly. "Tomorrow we begin the first official steps. We will gather documents, contact the lawyer, and make a plan." Lena smiled. "Yes, and we will do it together carefully." Before leaving the garage, they looked around one last time. The walls, shelves, and tools told stories of the past, of hard work, and of patience. The chest and its contents told a story of trust and planning. Lena felt a deep connection to the place. "This garage is more than just a building," she said. "It is a bridge to a new life," Omar agreed. "And it has given us a gift we must honor." On their way home, Lena and Omar discussed their plans. They imagined paying off their debts, improving their small house, helping neighbors, and starting a business. They also talked about saving money for the future and investing wisely. The fortune was more than just money. It was a chance to create a better life for themselves and for the community around them. Lena felt hope she had never felt before. That night, they sat at their kitchen table reviewing the documents once more. The glow from the small lamp illuminated the papers and envelopes. They made a detailed list of what needed to be done: collect personal identification documents, consult a trusted lawyer, verify the investments, and follow the instructions step by step. Omar wrote everything carefully in his notebook, while Lena organized the papers. They were determined to act responsibly and wisely. As they prepared for bed, Lena looked at Omar and whispered, "This is only the beginning. We have discovered the secret, but the real journey is ahead." Omar held her hand gently. "Yes, and we will face it together. We will follow the instructions and make the most of this opportunity." They went to sleep with minds full of possibilities and hearts filled with determination. The garage, standing quietly behind them, seemed to rest, having revealed its secret to the right people. Lena and Omar had discovered a fortune, but they knew that wealth alone was not enough. Patience, honesty, and careful planning were the true keys to success. With these qualities, they were ready to step into a future filled with hope, opportunity, and the chance to make their dreams come true. The following morning, Lena and Omar woke with determination. The excitement of discovering the fortune had not faded, but now they faced a new reality. Claiming the money would not be as simple as opening a chest. The documents in the garage had made it clear that they had to prove their identity, confirm their connection to the distant relative, and follow a careful legal process. Lena packed the important papers and envelopes in a secure folder. Omar brought his notebook and pen. Both of them felt a mixture of excitement, nervousness, and responsibility. They rode their bicycle to the garage, the morning sun casting golden light over the town. The streets were quiet, and birds chirped from the trees lining the road. The garage appeared the same as always, yet in Lena and Omar's eyes it had become a place of discovery, mystery, and hope. Inside, the chest awaited them in its corner. The gold bars glinted in the morning light, but Lena and Omar knew that the papers were far more important. These documents held the instructions for claiming the fortune legally and safely. They began reviewing the papers carefully. There were letters from financial institutions, contracts, and official forms that needed to be completed. One folder contained instructions to find a trustworthy lawyer to help them navigate the process. Lena said thoughtfully, "We cannot do this alone. Some parts are too complicated for us. We need expert advice," Omar nodded. "Yes, we must find someone who is honest and experienced. The right guidance will ensure we do everything correctly." After a short discussion, they decided to visit a local lawyer, recommended by a friend. Her name was Mrs. Rahman, and she was known for her honesty and professionalism. Lena and Omar gathered all the important documents and headed to her office. Mrs. Rahman greeted them warmly, listening carefully as they explained the situation. She examined the papers, flipping through pages with attention to every detail. Her expression shifted from curiosity to serious focus. "These documents are authentic," she said after a moment, "and the instructions are clear. However, you must follow each step carefully. Any mistake could delay the process or cause complications. You have discovered something very valuable, but with it comes responsibility." Lena and Omar nodded. "We understand," Omar said. "We are ready to follow instructions exactly." Mrs. Rahman smiled. "Good. That is the right attitude. We will start by confirming your identities and your connection to the relative. Then we will contact the necessary banks and institutions to claim the funds." Back at the garage, Lena and Omar carefully organized the chest once again. They had learned that attention to detail was essential. Every document had to be handled with care, and they had to make copies of everything for the lawyer. Lena stacked the envelopes neatly while Omar recorded notes in his notebook. "We are lucky to have found this garage," Lena said, her eyes shining. "It has given us a chance to change our lives, but it has also taught us patience and responsibility." Omar agreed. "Yes, the money is important, but the way we handle it is even more important." The next few days were filled with preparation. Lena and Omar gathered identification papers, birth certificates, and other legal documents. They made sure everything was complete and accurate. They also wrote a detailed history of their connection to the distant relative, explaining how they had discovered the garage and the chest. Lena and Omar were careful to follow every instruction precisely. Each step was a small challenge, but they faced it together, supporting each other through every task. One afternoon, while reviewing the documents, Lena found an envelope she had not noticed before. Inside were letters from the banks explaining how the investments had grown over decades. Some letters included charts and calculations, showing how small amounts had turned into a large fortune. Lena gasped as she read one of the letters. "Look at this, Omar. They invested so wisely. Every decision was planned for the future." Omar examined the charts carefully. "It is amazing. This was not just hidden money. It was a carefully planned fortune, meant to help the right person at the right time." They also learned that claiming the money would require patience. Some banks needed verification, while others required signatures from multiple officials. The fortune was not hidden by accident. It was protected by careful planning. Lena understood the importance of this. "We cannot rush," she said. "Every step must be correct. If we make a mistake, it could take months to fix." Omar nodded. "Yes, but we are ready. We will follow the instructions exactly." With Mrs. Rahman's help, Lena and Omar began contacting the financial institutions. They sent letters, made phone calls, and scheduled appointments. Each step required proof of identity and connection to the distant relative. Lena and Omar were careful to stay organized, keeping copies of every document and noting each conversation in their notebook. They realized that claiming the fortune was not just about luck. It was about discipline, patience, and careful work. As the process continued, Lena and Omar faced small challenges. Some banks required additional verification, and one institution asked for a notarized translation of a letter written decades ago. Each challenge tested their patience and attention to detail. Lena remained calm while Omar focused on finding solutions. They encouraged each other, reminding themselves that every obstacle was part of the journey. Slowly, step by step, they moved closer to claiming the fortune. During one evening at the garage, Lena sat on an old crate, holding some of the papers in her hands. She looked around at the dusty shelves, the rusted tools, and the sunlight streaming through the broken windows. "This garage has changed our lives," she said softly. Omar sat beside her, nodding. "It is more than just a building. It has taught us responsibility, patience, and the importance of doing things correctly." They both smiled, feeling a deep sense of respect for the distant relative who had hidden the fortune so carefully. One morning, they received a letter from one of the banks confirming that their documents had been verified. Lena and Omar felt a rush of excitement. "This is progress," Lena said. Omar smiled. "Yes, each step takes time, but we are moving forward. Soon we will reach the final stage." The realization filled them with hope and determination. They knew the fortune was real, and they were now on the path to claiming it responsibly. As the days passed, Lena and Omar continued to work closely with Mrs. Rahman. They learned about the importance of keeping records, following instructions, and remaining patient. Every time they completed a task, they felt a sense of accomplishment. Even small achievements like having a document verified or receiving a confirmation letter brought joy and relief. Lena and Omar realized that the true value of this journey was not only the money, but also the lessons they were learning along the way. By the end of the week, they had completed most of the legal requirements. The remaining steps involved meeting with officials, submitting final forms, and arranging for the safe transfer of funds. Lena and Omar felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. They knew that the final steps would require attention to detail and calm decision-making. Mrs. Rahman assured them, "You have done everything correctly so far. Continue with the same care, and the fortune will soon be yours." That evening, Lena and Omar returned to the garage to prepare for the final steps. They placed all the documents neatly in the chest and reviewed their notes. The garage, quiet and still, seemed to support their efforts. Lena looked at Omar and said, "We have come so far. I cannot believe this is happening." Omar smiled. "It is real, Lena, and we are ready. We have learned to be patient, responsible, and careful. That is what this journey was meant to teach us." As they left the garage and rode home under the orange and purple sky, they felt a sense of hope and achievement. The road ahead still held tasks, but they were prepared. Lena and Omar knew that they could claim the fortune responsibly and wisely. The garage, once a dusty building filled with junk, had become the starting point of a new life filled with possibility, responsibility, and opportunity. That night, as they prepared for sleep, Lena whispered, "Tomorrow we take the final steps. Soon everything will change." Omar held her hand gently. "Yes, and we will face it together carefully and honestly." They fell asleep with hearts full of hope, knowing that their patience, courage, and careful planning had brought them to the edge of a dream they had never imagined. The morning sun poured golden light over the small town, signaling the start of a new day. Lena and Omar woke early, filled with a mixture of excitement, nervousness, and hope. Today was the day they would take the final steps to claim the fortune hidden in the old garage. After weeks of preparation, verification, and careful planning, the moment had finally arrived. Lena packed the documents neatly into a secure folder, and Omar placed his notebook and notes beside it. They were ready to begin the final phase of their journey. On the ride to the garage, Lena and Omar remained quiet, each lost in their thoughts. Lena imagined what their life would be like after claiming the fortune. She pictured their small home repaired and painted, the garden full of flowers, and the possibility of helping their neighbors and friends. Omar thought about the opportunities they could create, from starting a small business to saving for their future. Both felt the weight of responsibility, but also a sense of excitement that energized them. Arriving at the garage, they were greeted by the familiar sight of dusty shelves, broken machines, and the chest that had changed their lives. The sunlight streamed through the broken windows, making the dust in the air shimmer like tiny stars. Lena took a deep breath. "This place feels different today," she said softly. Omar nodded. "It feels like it has been waiting for this moment." Together they approached the chest and opened it carefully. The gold bars glinted, but their eyes were fixed on the documents. These papers held the key to the life they had dreamed about. Mrs. Rahman arrived shortly after, her calm and professional presence reassuring Lena and Omar. She had guided them through every step, and now she would help them with the final tasks. "Everything is ready," she said. "We have verified your documents, confirmed your identity, and prepared the necessary forms. Today you will claim your rightful inheritance." Lena felt a shiver of excitement. Omar squeezed her hand gently. "We are ready," he said. The process began with a meeting at the local bank. Lena and Omar carried the documents carefully, placing them on the table in front of the bank manager. Mrs. Rahman explained everything, showing the official letters, identification papers, and proof of their connection to the distant relative. The bank manager examined each document with precision, checking every signature, date, and stamp. Lena and Omar waited patiently, knowing that every detail mattered. After some time, the manager smiled. "Everything is in order," he said. "You have followed the proper procedures and provided all the necessary documentation. The funds will be transferred to your account safely and legally." Lena and Omar could hardly believe their ears. Omar felt his heart beat faster. "It is really happening," he whispered. Lena smiled, feeling both joy and relief. Yes, we did it. All the careful work and patience have paid off. Next, they returned to the garage one last time to collect the gold bars. Lena held one in her hands, feeling the weight and value. This is incredible, she said. Omar placed another bar beside it. Yes, but the real value is in the papers and the fortune they represent. The gold is just part of the journey. They carefully locked the chest, leaving the garage neat and orderly. What had once seemed like a forgotten building filled with junk was now a symbol of hope, patience, and careful planning. With the funds safely transferred and the legal process completed, Lena and Omar began thinking about their future. They paid off the debts that had weighed on them for years, including the overdue bills, the small loans, and the rent. The sense of relief was overwhelming. Lena felt a joy she had never known. We are free, she said softly. Omar smiled. Yes, and now we can focus on building a better life. They decided to use part of the fortune to improve their home. Lena planned a small garden filled with flowers and vegetables. Omar repaired the broken furniture and painted the walls. Every improvement brought a sense of accomplishment and pride. Their home, once small and worn, was transformed into a comfortable and welcoming space. Neighbors who had once only smiled politely now visited, curious about the changes. Lena and Omar shared their joy, knowing that part of the fortune could benefit not just themselves, but the people around them. One of their first projects was to start a small business that could employ people from their town. Lena and Omar wanted to give others opportunities just as they had been given a chance. They renovated a small workshop near their home and began producing handmade furniture. They hired local workers, teaching them skills and sharing their knowledge. The business grew slowly but steadily. Lena and Omar realized that the fortune was not only about wealth, but about creating possibilities for themselves and others. As time passed, Lena and Omar continued to manage their fortune wisely. They consulted Mrs. Rahman regularly, ensuring that investments were safe and growing steadily. They also saved a portion of the money for emergencies and future opportunities. Lena and Omar had learned the importance of patience, careful planning, and honesty. The fortune had come to them because they had followed instructions, respected the process, and remained responsible. One afternoon, Lena and Omar visited the old garage once more. They stood outside looking at the building that had started it all. The sunlight highlighted the faded paint and broken windows. Lena smiled. This garage will always be special, she said. Omar nodded. Yes, it gave us a chance we could never have imagined. It taught us patience, responsibility, and the value of careful planning. They took a deep breath, feeling gratitude for the opportunity that had changed their lives. They also thought about the distant relative who had hidden the fortune. Lena whispered, I wish we could have met them. They were smart, patient, and thoughtful. They trusted the right people to carry on their plan. Omar nodded, and now it is our responsibility to honor that trust. We must use this fortune wisely and with care. They promised to always remember the lessons they had learned from the chest, the garage, and the careful planning of the past. With the fortune now part of their lives, Lena and Omar began exploring new dreams. They traveled to places they had only seen in books, experienced new cultures, and met people who inspired them. Despite their wealth, they remained humble and kind, never forgetting their roots or the struggles they had faced. Lena and Omar had learned that true happiness did not come from money alone, but from using it responsibly, helping others, and living a life filled with purpose. In the evenings, they often returned to the small garden behind their home. Lena tended the flowers while Omar repaired small furniture pieces for their workshop. They laughed, talked about their dreams, and shared stories about their past struggles. Life had changed, but their love, patience, and partnership had remained constant. Lena smiled at Omar. We found something incredible in that garage, but the best part is that we found it together. Omar nodded, holding her hand. Yes, together we can face anything and make our lives meaningful. The old garage, once filled with dust, broken tools, and forgotten machines, stood quietly behind their home. It had given Lena and Omar more than just wealth. It had given them lessons about patience, responsibility, careful planning, and hope. The chest had been a guide, the garage a starting point, and their hard work and determination had led them to a new life. Lena and Omar often visited it, not to take anything more, but to remember where their journey had begun. Over time, their story became known in the town. People admired Lena and Omar not just for their fortune, but for their humility, honesty, and willingness to help others. They inspired many to work hard, stay patient, and be responsible with whatever opportunities came their way. Lena and Omar never forgot that the real treasure was not just the money but the lessons, courage, and careful choices that had guided them to a bright and promising future. At night, as they looked out the window at the stars above, Lena and Omar felt gratitude. They had gone from struggling with daily life to living a life full of opportunity, purpose, and joy. The journey had tested their patience, courage, and honesty, but in the end it had rewarded them beyond imagination. Lena whispered, "We have everything we need now, Omar, not just money but a future full of possibilities." Omar held her close. "Yes, Lena, and we will continue to live wisely, responsibly, and happily. Together we can do anything." The sun set behind the garage, painting the sky in warm colors. The old building, quiet and proud, had fulfilled its purpose. Lena and Omar had discovered the fortune, faced challenges, and used it wisely to create a new life. Their journey had been filled with excitement, patience, and responsibility, and now a new chapter had begun. The young couple, once poor and uncertain, had transformed their lives through courage, careful planning, and hope. The garage had been the beginning of everything, and the future was theirs to shape.